Welcome everybody to the Gemini Goddess Morning Star journey. And this is the 6th gate activation and our total solar eclipse in Sagittarius. The 6th gate is activating the Sacral Chakra. And that activation actually just took place 2 days ago on December 12th. And today is the 14th, the day of the total solar eclipse. So that's very, very exciting. It's interesting to note that the 6th gate activation is happening in Scorpio. This descent journey has really been a very Scorpio themed descent journey. And Maureen and I were talking about in the Sacred Masculine class, the necessity for emotional maturity. And I think maybe, Maureen, that all of these Scorpio energies that we've been engaging on this descent journey have been supporting us in getting to that deeper emotional maturity level. What do you think?
Oh, I absolutely believe that. Yeah, I've all along felt that that was a big part of, the descent for me was to let go of all those emotional responses that are not aligned with my highest good. In other words, knee-jerk reactions, things like that. And that's really been a big theme throughout. In fact, going on the second year, it's been a big theme. Throughout last year, it was too.
Yeah. It's really great that you're bringing some awareness around the tendency that people have to have knee-jerk reactions or emotional, reactions, to be in that reactionary state. Because when we're doing that, we're definitely not standing in our power. We're not standing in our sovereignty, and we're definitely giving our power away. And when we're feeling disempowered because we're giving our power away, then we can feel very, very vulnerable. So all of that really ties into this theme of these Scorpio energies that we've been dealing with this descent journey. Thank you for putting a little light on that for us.
Certainly, yes.
So this is our agenda. I know it looks huge, but it's going to be great. One of the things that I've added is this new slide, December's creative energies. And Maureen was talking about feeling like she needs to get out her monthly planner and write down when all of these cosmic events are happening around the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine. And so this slide actually kind of serves that purpose. You can just go back to this slide and not have to dig around for all of that and fill in your calendar with those dates.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are going to open sacred space first, and we're going to be invoking the goddess Sedna, because the activation of this gate is standing opposite Sedna in Taurus. The gate's happening in Scorpio. Sedna's across the sky in Taurus, and together they're activating that path of intensity, which has to do with that Shakti energy that's very, very intense, that Kundalini energy, and being able to allow that Shakti to run through your system and without being impeded. So this is a huge pathway that's being activated for us by this gate activation and by Sedna's presence there. So I've got my candle lit and I'm going to spray my sprays. See here. Go ahead and take this time to smudge or spray, whatever you need to do. And then whomever would like to do the invocation, just dive right in.
Go ahead, Leela.
Okay. Invocation of Sedna, goddess of thriving. O mistress of the great ocean, we ask that you bring your magic to our sacred space. Cleanse our thoughts, words, and deeds with your salty waters, so that we may access the purity, blessings, and life-giving qualities that they offer us. We now cast our cares and worries to you, so that you may swallow them in your cavernous sea. Thank you for washing them until their underlying essence is revealed and healed. Dearest Mother of the deep blue, we desire to develop a mystical connection with you through our intuition. Help us to reveal in the magical underwater adventures that you can channel to us during our dream time. We ask that you send the dolphins, whales, and sea lions into our dreams to reveal to us how we may regenerate ourselves so that we may prosper and flourish. Thank you for reminding us that we are enriched through frolic and play. Thank you for nurturing our spiritual abundance. Thank you for bestowing your evolutionary gifts of eternal love and peace upon us.
Nice. Very nice. If you're not familiar with the myth of Sedna, I encourage you to Google it and read it. She's an Inuit goddess. And the Inuit tribe, I think they're one of the Eskimo tribes that are up in the Alaska region.
And Canada, too.
And in Canada, too, yeah. Okay, so let's look at the month. A lot of cosmic events happening this month that are going to be activating us deeper and deeper and deeper. So as I said, just 2 days ago on the 12th was the sixth gate activation for the sacred feminine. And today is the total solar eclipse. Just reminding everybody that when we have solar eclipses, it's at a new moon. When we have lunar eclipses, they're at full moons. So with the total solar eclipse new moon, what that means is that both the sun and the moon are standing in the exact same place in the sky. They're both here in Sagittarius at 23 degrees. Tomorrow is the event for the sacred masculine where the Mars training is complete. And that's marked by Mars returning to the place in the sky where he stood opposite the sun, which initiated the birth of the new archetype. On the 21st, we have the winter solstice. And the winter solstice is always marked when the sun stands at the 0 degree threshold of Capricorn. And then just in a semi-sextile to that threshold, we have the exact conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn at 0 degrees Aquarius. They are conjunct now at the 29 degree of Capricorn. That's the mastery point of the Capricorn energies. But the exact conjunction will be just days from us now, 14 to 21. What is that? 7 days, a week? A week from today.
7 days exactly today.
Yeah, 7 days exactly today. Thank you, Leela. And that conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in the sky is historically known as that which was happening and recognized as the Star of Bethlehem. Talk about that a little bit more in the Sacred Masculine class that we had on Saturday. And then December 23rd is the second Sacred Masculine event, the first of the labors of Mars. And then on December 29th, we'll have a full moon in Cancer at 9 degrees. So this actually conjuncts my personal natal Orcus, Orcus being the sacred vow. So I'm really curious to see what's going to happen around that. The full moon, of course, illuminating the consciousness that was seated at the new moon and invoking, in this instance, those divine mother energies of Cancer. So I'm really excited to see what happens then. And so the moon is going to be at Cancer, and the sun will be across the sky then in 9 degrees of Capricorn. So really, really action-packed month for us.
That's
So yeah,
for sure.
so now you can use this slide to go in and update your calendars. So let's take some time here and do a little bit of closure, excuse me, around the 5th gate activation that it had to do with activating the solar plexus. So any daimons, any demons, any shadow pieces, any wounding that may have showed up for you during this time, any ways that your solar plexus was not fueling your cellular energy, so you were feeling energetically depleted, and that could be a pattern. In fact, I know for myself, having dealt with some autoimmune issues throughout my lifetime, that what they call chronic fatigue syndrome, I think, is very much a part of blockage with the solar plexus. Any ways in which you are looking to others for a sense of your self-identity, any ways in which you are learning to discern your own sense of power, any ways in which you may have discovered a new relationship with your solar plexus, and any ways in which you have uncovered leaks to your vitality. So is there anything that's become more clarified for you since your personal sessions when we would have talked about this, that you'd like to bring some awareness to, some light to? I know for myself, while I usually and generally feel like I've got a sense of purpose, I feel like this gate for me has even taken that overview of what I feel like is a sense of person, and it has kind of refined it and made it a little more clear, and has made it a little more focused and pointed. So that's something that I've personally experienced at this gate. I've also discovered a new relationship with my solar plexus, because through some various experiences I was having, I was really able to feel into when others were impinging upon my own personal will, and when I was really standing in my will and holding that boundary to prevent that impingement upon me, that force upon me. So that really established a whole new relationship with my solar plexus to understand when I'm having certain feelings in that area, what those feelings are indicating to me on an energetic level that's happening with my personal space and my personal power. Is there anything you'd like to speak to, Leela?
Yeah. I feel it's really strong. When we had our personal session, I shared some of what had been kind of going on for me, and just seeing where there have been leaks in my energy and where I've been giving my power away, which has not a new thing. It's a kind of a lifelong thing. And creating boundaries. And this year has been a lot about that for me, around discernment, around obligation and expectation, and really seeing where my own sovereignty is in there and what I can choose for myself for the good of for the good of how I can be of service in the world. Because if I'm constantly giving all my energy and depleting myself, then I'm not able to really fully show up anyway. So it's this kind of funny thing that it's like, but I just want to be there for everybody. But it's, if you're doing it at 40% instead of 100% because you're not giving yourself what you need, then what's the point? And so I just saw this I've been really seeing this pattern, and the wanting to make sure that everybody's okay, and the people pleasing, and the overextending, and realizing that there's also a wound there that's coming from a lack of confidence, a lack of like my own worth, my own empowerment. And so that's been a huge over many years, and yet this year there's been like a new level of that, and being able to say no, and how powerful that's been.
Right.
And because in some ways it feels that there almost has to be, my boundaries have to be really strong so that I can find where that like middle ground is, because it's so easy to just allow them to be very malleable. Because I was like, oh well, I have a bit of an aversion to things that I feel are rigid. It's like my Cancerian flow is just like, I just want to flow, but I'm seeing how structure supports the flow. And so that's been really powerful for me to be able to just continue that, and to know that my capacity has stretched because I've given myself that space. It's like, even with my calendar, and someone's like, oh, can I have a session at this time? And I'm like, actually, no, I'm not available then. This is my availability. And being more strong with being able to say that without this fear of, oh, well, I have to accommodate.
Right. Exactly. That's huge. That's really huge. Yeah. Very, very amazing insights. Thank you for sharing them. I'm
Yeah, it
reading
feels
this.
strong.
Yeah. You had mentioned expectations, and I'm reading this book that I just discovered yesterday called The Portal by Patrice Chaplin. And there was a piece in there about expectations, and this guide was telling her that she was running her life on expectations. And I realized when I was reading the discussion they were having about that, how expectations are really an unrecognized source of leaks to our vitality, to our power, because we either expect that if I show up late, somebody's going to be, offended or put out in some way. And so we get ourselves wrapped up in having to deal with the expectation of what their response is. And of course, most of the expectations that we have are based on previous experiences that we've had. And that's disempowering, because it's now taking us out of the eternal now and not allowing us to have a whole new space and container for a completely new experience to unfold. And so that was really deeply revealing to me in terms of all the ways I moved through my life, in terms of meeting with people and having to work on certain projects and stuff, and always feeling like, what is the expectation going to be in terms of the emotional responses that I'll encounter, in terms of the challenges and blockages that I may encounter that might potentially thwart me. It was a huge revelation for me, and I can see how it ties back to this solar plexus and all of the leaks that we create in our energy by trying to constantly, it's almost like trying to avoid stepping on eggshells, because you're constantly trying to negotiate avoiding what you've created in your mind instead of allowing that spontaneous flow of the well-being of the universe to just carry you through it.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I can totally relate to that. Yeah. It feels like there's this, the letting go of that, it creates way more vitality. And from that place of vitality, I'm feeling more inspired. And from that place of inspiration, I'm feeling more joy. And then I'm following what lights me up, which is creating opportunities, which is it's like this being in the flow and the magic of life is what it feels like. It's so subtle and so simple, and yet it's so big.
Yes, that's where our power is. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what gives us the momentum to create these really huge things in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely. How
Yeah. I'm
about you,
feeling
Maureen? Oh, I'm sorry.
complete.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I'm feeling complete.
Good. Good. Yeah. Yeah. So, Maureen, how
Yeah.
about you?
Well, this is a problematic chakra for me. It always has been. I'm not certain there's been any woman of my generation who has not experienced giving their power away on a daily basis. What that did for me was it caused a split between acting like I thought I should act or doing what I thought I should do versus what I was really thinking or understanding about myself. And so, what I did in that situation was choose where I would express which phase in order to keep the peace. That's a pretty big part of my youth and my adulthood too. Being what you thought you should be, and it doesn't always work, which it didn't for me. So understanding that about myself has it's come to the point where I no longer have that option. I don't feel that I have the option to display two sides, one to keep the peace and one to do what I want, because the split is in my own home. And so if I want to be at peace and harmony in my own home, if I want it to be my sanctuary, then I have to bring those pieces together and express my true sense through my sovereignty. So that's just really hard, and it causes trouble in my house in many ways, and so it's not always as harmonious as I would like it to be. But that's where I'm working. I'm working at that point in this journey, is bringing those two parts of me back. And I've heard a lot about soul retrieval during this journey, claiming parts of you that you've let go of because it's just not working in the situation you find yourself in. That's how you feel anyway. Not true necessarily, but it's how you perceive it. And of course, that's not always in your best interest. Certainly not mine. So that's what I'm doing now with this chakra. And I don't know that I'll be done with it ever. I just think it's an ongoing practice. I have to constantly be aware where I'm leaking, where I'm not being sovereign to myself. And that doesn't mean that I have to trample over anybody. It's not that, which is kind of what my husband feels that sovereignty is. It's like not being sensitive to what other people are feeling. And that's, I don't want that at all. But I do want the freedom to be who I am.
Right.
And if that means saying no, then okay, that's what it is. And how that's received is not my issue. If I'm clear, if I express myself in a very positive and clear and loving way, I think that that's what what I'm requiring of myself right now, what I'm expecting of myself right now.
You know, in a way, I can almost feel into how if there's already some imbalance or disharmony in the home, by choosing to heal this split within you, that initially it could even cause that to become inflamed because it could feel like the people in your home have been trained into believing that this is who you are. And they don't understand because they've been trained into believing that this is who you are, that it's just a mask, that it's not your authentic self. And so that when you say, okay, now I'm going to heal this split and I am going to present my authentic self to them, it could potentially feel like, you know, that movie, The Invasion of the Body Snatchers, like, where did my mother go? Where did my wife go? Who is this person? Because they never got to have the time to connect with you and intimately get to know your authentic self. And it's a huge cognizant dissonance for them to have to say, wait, who I've known and who I've engaged with all this time is not really who this person is now showing me that she really is. And so initially it could really actually kind of throw oil on the flame and make it worse until they've got the time and space to recognize my mother, my wife, is now using her power to stand in her authentic self. And what's really super groovy about that is now it's giving me an opportunity to find all the ways I haven't really been showing up authentically either. And I can now have permission and feel safe to do that as well. Does that make sense to you, Maureen?
Oh, of course. Yes. Thank you.
Takes a lot of courage to be willing to almost kind of like turn the Titanic around, start trying to turn the Titanic around. And it feels like there's a lot of force pushing back on you to do that. But when you stand in that commitment and you choose to do it with ease and gentleness, like it sounds like your intention is, that down the road that there'll be a huge payoff for that.
I think so. Yes, I'm holding that intention, and I just have to know. I just have to trust that that will be a harmonious transformation within a home.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can even support it by holding that vision and seeing it already manifested.
Yes, that is the important part, is to see it as having, it is done. As soon as you say it, it is done. And kind of that was a big part of my ceremony today.
Yeah, groovy. Because I think that when you hold that vision, it'll help to soothe the wobble that you're feeling within the home space, and that each of the players in the home space may be trying to deal with. They're out of balance now because it's like, whoa.
Yes, and I'm remembering something we talked about in our session, being that feeling the tension within the home. I've always thought I wasn't very courageous because I couldn't leave. I didn't feel like I could leave. I couldn't see how I would do that with two children and a job that wasn't going to support me in my own home. So I thought that was not a very courageous thing to do, was to stay, because various reasons that I thought were valid. But what I found out was that the reason I stayed was really to face this one particularly difficult issue in a relationship, is to be a part of an equal partnership. And what's the word I'm looking for? Equal Libra.
Conscious equal partnership.
Conscious equal partnership. There you go. Yes. And I realized that this situation is exactly what I need to claim that. So that was an eye opener also. And I'm thinking, wow, that was courageous after all for me to stay here, because there's difficulty facing something like that. But you put yourself in situations when you come here that you know you're not going to escape from or run from, that you're going to face. Where else but in the home? And I think that's been a lot of people's goals, is to come here and deal with that conscious equal partnership, which was shown by, Venus moving from the overtone of Scorpio into the overtone of Libra.
Exactly.
So that was a big part of it. And it's really hard, which is shown by the divorce rate
Exactly.
today.
Exactly. Yeah. Brava you. Thank you for holding that energy of courage, even when you didn't understand
No.
why you were doing it.
You think you're hiding from it, but you can't get away from it. There's no way to run from it if you stay in it.
Right. Right. Wow. So this solar plexus chakra is really oomph.
It is. Exactly. Cosmic 2x4 every single time I get here.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So is everybody feeling complete around the fifth gate?
Yes.
Good. Very good. Thank you. Thank you for all that fabulous wisdom that you were sharing. So here we go. Let's look at what's been happening in the heavens. So last month was a huge month for two of our luminary bodies that have been in retrograde, stationing direct. Mars stationed direct and Neptune stationed direct. So that's a huge shift in energy now that we've been dealing with those two energies no longer being retrograde. And then for Mars, he will return to that place in the sky where he stationed retrograde, that 28 Aries. He returns to that point on January 2nd. And so, we're still kind of in what's called the window of that shadow period until he reaches January 2nd, and then it's full steam ahead. And the same for Pisces, for Neptune in Pisces. Neptune's a very slow moving planet. So you can see from June to November, in 5 months, he's moved about close to 3 degrees. And then it's going to take him all the way into March of next year before he can get back to that place in the sky where he was at 20, almost 21 degrees of Pisces before, again, moving full steam ahead. So that's huge. Next month, Uranus will station direct. And that's happening right after the root gate chakra. The root gate chakra is on the 11th. And then 4 days later, Uranus will station direct. So this has been a huge journey for us, that Vision Quest journey. And I encourage you to go back to the slides from the previous classes where we've talked about that. Because remember, when a planet is going retrograde, there's something there that you didn't pick up the first time you went through that section of the sky that you're going back to rediscover and to reclaim. And so, again, because Uranus is so slow moving, it won't be until May Day, right, Beltane, before we get back to the place in the sky where Uranus started that retrograde, that Vision Quest journey. So these are some big things going on. Also, back in October, Pluto stationed direct, and he will be getting to the place in the sky where he went retrograde on January 25th. So that's 3 big events happening in January next month. Pluto goes back to the place in the sky where he went retrograde, as does Mars, and then Uranus stations direct. So that's a significant shift in energy that we'll be experiencing next month. So this total solar eclipse that's happening today, 2 days after this gate activation. So this energy is encoded in the gate activation. And what's interesting is it also happens to be standing at a semi-sextile aspect to the sacral gate activation within 30 degrees of that activation. So the semi-sextile, remember I used the analogy of the BFFs, the best friends, holding hands, you know, through their childhood, skipping and playing and sitting together and everything. It's a very, very harmonious, a very supportive energy that these solar eclipse energies are giving to this gate activation. Also coming up this month, we know right now, as I mentioned, that Saturn and Jupiter are conjunct at 29 degrees of Capricorn, but that the exact conjunction will happen on the solstice. So this gives you a clue in, if you want to put that in your calendar too, Saturn will move into Aquarius first on December 17th. And then 2 days later, Jupiter will move into Aquarius. So again, big shifts in energy going from Capricorn into Aquarius. And then they finally meet up and are standing in the exact same place in the sky on that solstice day. So a lot going on energetically in terms of shifts in frequencies happening this month and next month too. All right. Wow. I didn't realize that Juno got her face cut off when I created this slide. So this, I know, again, looks like a lot, really heavy. You're going to have to kind of allow yourself to soak into this. But at this particular gate activation, it is conjunct Juno, this 6th gate activation, standing right there with Juno. And when I saw that, I recognized that over the course of this entire descent journey, Juno has been very actively involved through various aspects at each of the gates. So I decided to go back and make a chart to look at how she has been involved and who some of the players have been. So I went back to our first gate in July, the crown activation, when Juno was in Libra, the sign of conscious equal partnership. And we can see here that at that time, she was in trine to the gate activation. And she was activating the path of conscious equal partnership by standing opposite Mars, the sacred masculine, and Chiron, the cosmic shaman. And then at the third eye gate, the second activation, he was involved in the yod. Remember, there were 2 yods at that gate activation, and she was involved as part of the base of yod 2 with the Mercury and Sun in Leo and the apex in Pisces. Then in September at the third gate, activating the throat, here she was again activating that path of conscious equal partnership, once again with the sacred masculine and with Black Moon Lilith and the goddess Eris. And she was also trining the North Node. So very much a part of helping humanity's evolution towards being able to embody conscious equal partnership. And then in October, when we had the fourth gate activation at the heart, she had moved from Libra into Scorpio. And here she was conjunct Mercury in Scorpio. So here Mercury again playing another role with her and standing opposite Uranus in Taurus. And so this time she's gone from activating the path of conscious equal partnership to activating the path of intensity. That's the path that's being activated now with the Venus, Moon, and Juno in Scorpio, opposite Sedna, who we did the invocation with, in Taurus. Again, the path of intensity happening, being activated now. Then last month in November, she was conjunct the Sun in Sekhmet and trine Neptune and Yeshua. There was that T-square, Neptune-Yeshua's T-square, with the opposition to the galactic center and Ischion. So here she was invoking and activating the path of the questmate. Once again, as I said, this month, she's conjunct this gate activation. The total solar eclipse is standing at a semi-sextile to her. There's that opposition to Sedna and activating the path of intensity. And she's trine Yeshua. I mean, this is huge. She's been actively involved every step of the way. And now in January, she will move out of Scorpio. She will go into Sagittarius. Again, she is going to be involved with the gate activation through a semi-sextile, the same kind of activation that we're having right now with the total solar eclipse, that aspect, that very harmonious 30-degree aspect. She'll be in sextile to Jupiter and Mercury and Pallas Athena. She's going to be trining Yeshua again, and she's going to be standing in conjunct to Uranus and Black Moon Lilith. I mean, she is working deep, deep, deep within us. Remember who Juno is. She's the goddess of sacred partnership. And she has been working deep, deep, deep within us at each of these gates to really create the space within us to embody more and more and more of this archetype of conscious equal partnership. And then in February, we'll have the final gate activation of the descent journey, the 8th gate, which is the Earth Star gate. And once again, she's activating the gate activation here through a sextile, continuing to trine Yeshua. She'll be a part of a grand cross that's going to activate the path of the quest mate. She did that at the solar plexus, activating the path of the quest mate. She's also going to be a part of, in this grand cross, activating the path of the helpmate. And this time she'll be in conjunct Mars. Remember what I said about in conjuncts. So an opposition is 180 degrees. We know that with the opposition, we're looking to blend the energies of those polarities and raise it to a higher frequency to manifest something new. With an in conjunct, you're looking at this 180 degree opposition and then down 30 degrees. So it's a 150 degree aspect, the 30 degrees off of the opposition. And what this aspect, this 150 degree aspect does, it creates kind of a tension within you where you're feeling like, I can't be this and that. I have to be this or that. But it's the opportunity there is to figure out how, instead of being this or that, that you can hold within you this and that. It's a huge activation, these in conjuncts. So how can I be in equal, conscious, equal partnership with the Mars, the sacred masculine within me? I can be both. How can I use this grand cross to give me all of these 4 opportunities and breakthroughs of consciousness that will enable me to hold this energy and that energy simultaneously? So you see here, being conjunct this gate activation right now just was the perfect opportunity to see how intimately and intricately involved the goddess of sacred relationship has been in this entire Gemini descent journey. I mean, isn't this spectacular?
Mm. Yes.
Is anybody getting
I was just chuckling a little bit to myself because I wrote a post last night about the new moon and the eclipse, and a big thing that was coming through was about the this and that opposed to the this or that, and that energy and how strong that is, and how this year feels like a initiation into that and moving away from that the divisive energy, instead of like what can it be when we can include everything, because that's
exactly?
integration.
Mhm.
you know
Yes. Yes. I love that word, integration. How can I integrate who I know myself to be with my inner masculine?
mm-hmm.
So many people working with the sacred feminine are so focused on the rise of the sacred feminine that they've completely have forgotten about the sacred masculine. And Maureen and I were talking about this earlier, and it's like going to the party but missing the big event. If you're not going in with your inner feminine and your inner masculine, you're
Mm-hmm.
missing the whole big event.
Mm.
And so to really get the most out of the party, you want to be able to show up with both your inner feminine and your inner masculine.
You know what I feel around that, in the sense that for people who have been doing a lot of spiritual work for a long time, such as yourselves, and there's like that integration piece, but there's so many people that are still moving from the wounded feminine into the more sacred feminine, that they almost need to have that foundation before they can bring in the sacred masculine, because they need to know what the sacred feminine is within them as women before they can understand where that sacred masculine meets that sacred feminine. It's what I'm feeling. It's like the next evolution almost.
And you're right. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right, Leela. And the key word that you used was it's a stepping stone.
Mm.
And what I'm observing is that they're getting stuck there. They think that's the whole enchilada, right? They've arrived and that's it. And it's a stepping stone.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Thank you for bringing that awareness in. How are you feeling around that, Maureen?
Yes, that's exactly right. Like I said, I was so obsessed with the sacred feminine and bringing that back into balance on the earth. I forgot what we were balancing it with. And in my own experience, I was not even considering my inner masculine, let alone any other masculine. You know, they were the patriarchy. That's it. And so that I really had to bring that back. Um, and I think I've done that. At least I've taken this step to do that. And I'm acknowledging my inner masculine. Finally, poor guy. He was
Right,
he just
right.
wasn't being honored at all. And now he is. So
Yeah. Well, and you bring up a whole new point that piggybacks on what Leela said, is when women are shifting from the wounded feminine into the healed and sovereign feminine as a stepping stone, when they get stuck there, what
yes.
I have observed is that they then come out of balance again because they start invoking patriarchy as a way to engage with the masculine, because they don't understand that patriarchy and I mean on a deep level, intellectually they may understand what patriarchy is, but they haven't understood that patriarchy is not masculine energy. They've identified it as masculine energy.
Mhm.
Patriarchy is masculine energy, sacred masculine energy that has been made profane. And so, because they don't know of any other way to engage in a quote unquote alleged masculine way, they themselves getting stuck there start bringing in all of this hierarchical stuff that is the foundation of patriarchy, and it brings them out of balance again. It's like the pendulum almost goes too far the other way.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have to bring it back to center and realize, whoa, patriarchy is not sacred masculine. Discover what that is to be able to come back to center and then move forward in terms of engaging with their inner masculine in a sacred way.
Yeah, I just had this from what you said, which was so powerful, is for me, how it feels in my body is what is the embodied feminine? The embodied feminine is the merging the alchemy of the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine within me, because that's, I'm feminine in my sex and in my body, but that's like the embodied feminine, and that brings that merging of the two together.
Beautiful,
Mhm.
beautiful. So, Juno is playing a huge, huge role for us through all of this. And look at how many times the sacred masculine, 1, 2, 3, has been a part of her journey with us. I mean, that's very, very significant. At the crown chakra, at the throat chakra, where most women have lost their voice due to patriarchy, and then grounding us in that energy. Yes, I can embody the sacred masculine energy, and it is safe to embody that energy, and I can ground it on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So she's just been a spectacular ally through this entire descent journey, and will continue to until we go into the Inanna underworld. So I thought it was worth taking the time to really see how intricately she's been involved with us. So here at the Sacral Chakra in the Inanna myth, we call this the gate of creativity. And when Inanna reaches this gate, she is asked to remove her ankle bracelets. So let's look at what the significance of these ankle bracelets are for her and for us. When Inanna loses her ankle bracelets, it is symbolizing the surrender of all the ways she no longer loves or values herself. The gate of creativity also represents the womb space. So the loss of her ankle bracelets also symbolizes the loss of her sensuality and her sexual power. And on this particular site, I found this quote, which is very interesting. It is believed that wearing ankle bracelets can cure gynecological disorders, infertility, hormonal imbalance, and obstetric problems. Well, all of those issues are related to the sacral chakra. And I had no idea that there was this belief system out there that wearing ankle bracelets could help bring in the balance to that chakra to alleviate those energetic disorders that have manifested physically. Women have been wearing anklets for 4,500 years since Sumerian times to represent wealth, social status, and marital status. It is widely believed that by wearing an anklet, one's energy is not wasted, but revibrated back into your own body. And this is because under the Hindu belief, our feet and our hands are constantly emanating energy. There are chakras here in the palms of our hands and in the soles of our hands. And so they're constantly emanating energy. And if you do any kind of energy work like Reiki or whatever that uses your hands, you are very aware of those chakras and the energy that comes through it. It says here that precious metals are thought to prevent the release of this energy and to insulate the person from negative environments. And then I looked at Louise Hay to see what she had to say about ankles, because this kept coming up in everything that I was researching. And she says that ankles represent the ability to receive pleasure. And that's really interesting to me because that goes back to that path of intensity, the Scorpio Taurus path of that Shakti, that Kundalini, that feels so pleasurable when we allow that energy to move through us. And then she says that when you have an issue with your ankle, if you twist or sprain or strain your ankle, possibly even break your ankle, that has to do with emotional and mental issues that are related to inflexibility and guilt. So we can see here that the ankles and the anklet bracelets have a huge significance for this sacral chakra. Is there anything that anybody would like to add or comment on regarding any of this that I've shared? Okay. So let's talk about the sacral chakra then. The sacral chakra is known for the center of sexual energy, pleasure, creativity, intimacy, and connection. If your sacral chakra is balanced, you will be able to go with the flow. And isn't it interesting that our moon time is all about flowing? You will manage change effectively. You will appropriately express your emotions. You can lock into the power of your sexual energy. You can enjoy the pleasures of life and create freely, and you can be sensitive and intuitive. The sacral chakra is instrumental in developing flexibility in our life. And that goes back to what Louise Hay was saying, that when you have any kind of injuries to your ankles, that's an indication of being inflexible. The sacral chakra is associated with the sign of Scorpio, right? That Kundalini energy, that Shakti energy. And a well-functioning sacral chakra helps one to maintain a healthy yin-yang experience, yin-yang existence. And so this brings in a whole new discussion about the solar plexus chakra that we've just been through, that activation, and now the sacral chakra activation. And that has to do with power, with energy. The solar plexus chakra is associated with the fire element and the sun as a fire element, and it is the seat of our autonomous inner masculine. The sacral chakra, on the other hand, is associated with the water element, the moon as a water element, and the seat of our autonomous inner feminine. And so when we have any imbalances in one, most often you will experience an imbalance in the other, because there again, you're dealing with the feminine energy and the masculine energy, and how are you able to maintain a balance between them. So this is really, really huge. And I was telling Maureen that what this brought into my awareness is, you know, pictorially, when we're looking at the chakra system, you've got the root, then you have the sacral chakra, and then you have the solar plexus chakra. And so pictorially, in terms of that alignment, that vertical alignment, we see here that the sacral chakra can be perceived as being subjugated to the solar plexus chakra. And this, in fact, is what happens through patriarchy, that it is pushing these energies down. And this is why through patriarchy, there is this belief that feminine energy should be subjugated to and controlled by masculine energy, because they are taking the energies and they are pushing them down. They're not allowing those energies to flow up. And this is why a lot of people who have the imbalances in both the solar plexus and the sacral chakra, their energy, their kundalini, their shakti is not able to get up here to the heart chakra, because this imbalance is between the feminine and the masculine is preventing that energy to rise up into the heart chakra, where those two are in conscious equal partnership. This is a huge understanding about, again, on a different level, the significance of having the inner feminine hold her power and the inner masculine hold his power, because they're both creative energies. They're both powerful, and one does not force its will on the other. They work together in unique ways. And in fact, we know that the sacred masculine serves and supports the sacred feminine. It doesn't subjugate the feminine. And so this is a huge piece in terms of balancing these two energetic areas to recognize, because when that energy is being forced down and the inner feminine is feeling subjugated too, well, when that energy continues to be pushed down, where is it going? It's going into the root chakra. Now the root chakra is out of balance. And how do you feel when the root chakra is out of balance? You feel vulnerable. You can see that this is a vicious cycle until that energy can get turned around and can come back into balance again. Are there any ahas or clarifications or additions that either of you would like to make to this? recognition of the interplay between the sacral chakra and the solar plexus chakra?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of chakra work over the last many years, and it's just a different way of seeing it that's actually quite potent. And so I'm just kind of integrating that new awarenesses that you shared, and that every way of seeing it is another lens that can bring new insight, which is really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and so if we go back up here to what we're talking about, the sacral chakra, we're talking about creativity. We're talking about connection, and so when we talked about the solar plexus chakra, we talked about creativity. And so, we talked about power. Here we're talking about power here as well. And so they're both seats of power. They're both seats of creativity. It's just that the sacral chakra is a feminine seat of power and creativity, and the solar plexus chakra is a masculine seat for power and creativity. So all of this brought to mind for me that when these energies are out of balance, that we have a tendency to start to encounter narcissism. And it turns out that there is actually an epidemic of narcissism, particularly in the United States. And I found this fascinating when I started to go and look for this, because these two chakras out of balance lends itself towards either attracting narcissists into your life or being a narcissist. And so Dr. Twenge, who is the PhD that collaborated on this book, has turned her focus to the pernicious spread of narcissism in today's culture, which has repercussions for every age group and class. And she joins forces with this Dr. Keith Campbell here, who is a nationally recognized expert on narcissism, to explore what they're calling the new plague. So forget COVID, right? The plague is not the virus. The plague is narcissism as an epidemic. And they have an eye-opening exposition of the alarming rise of narcissism and its catastrophic effects on every level of society. They draw on their own extensive research as well as decades of other experts' studies to show us how to identify narcissism, minimize the forces that sustain and transmit it, and treat it or manage it where we find it. And this is significant because of the fact that so many people still have these deep imbalances in these two chakras, the sacral chakra and the solar plexus chakra. Now, let's look at what this is all about. What is a narcissist? Who is a narcissist? And I know anybody listening to this, including the two of you, will have encountered people that are narcissists. And these narcissists are so strong-willed and so in charge that you are unable to use your own voice. They do not want your voice. They do not want to hear from you. What they want to do is fill your thoughts with their thoughts and fill your priorities with their priorities. This in itself goes back to the imbalance of the solar plexus chakra, using your will to impose it on another's will. Narcissists say and do things to keep you in your place. This is that downward projection of that solar plexus energy, pushing down on the sacral chakra, pushing you down into that root chakra energy where you're constantly in a place of fear and vulnerability. They believe you are that you are inferior and that they are superior. And you better dare not to forget it. They like to make you feel that what you say or do is wrong and that you will be punished for what you say and do. If I say that, I'll get in trouble. How many times have somebody said, we need to talk, and immediately you feel like you're in trouble? Narcissists destroy your sense of credibility to the point that you don't think anyone will believe what you have to say. They erode your own sense of self and self-worth. This sense of self and self-worth is a huge part of the second chakra, the sacral chakra, and the third chakra, the solar plexus chakra. Narcissists whittle away at your self-confidence, make you feel inadequate, and make you feel that, of course, you need them. If you didn't have them in your life, there's no way you'd be able to get by. Narcissists want you to know deep down at the core of your being that you are defective and lucky to have them around. And in a nutshell, narcissists are bullies. Their forceful conduct is a cover for their own weakness and hidden feelings of ineptitude. This Dr. Les Carter has a YouTube channel. He's got all kinds of really great little 7-10 minute videos on this subject. But you can see here that what a narcissist is demonstrating is that they have a very out of balance and a very weak solar plexus chakra and a sacral chakra, because most people identify narcissists with men, but let me tell you, there are a lot of women who are narcissists as too. And many people first experience narcissists in their home of origin through either their father figure and or their mother figure. Now, so what are the effects of narcissism? And this is really important for those that are dealing with having a narcissist in their life, and they may not recognize that that's what they're dealing with. Because remember, these two chakras, solar plexus chakra, sacral chakra, these are power centers. And so what's happened is you've been completely stripped of your power when you're dealing with one of these individuals. So what happens? You lose who you are. You become completely disempowered. Your boundaries become obliterated, and you may not know how to create and hold healthy boundaries for yourself. We see this in people pleasers. They always are saying yes, 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 because they don't know how to hold these boundaries, oftentimes because the force of a narcissist has run those boundaries over and obliterated them. You do not know how to be self-assertive or to advocate for your rights. You end up feeling like something is wrong with you. You believe that you have nothing of value to offer or contribute. You become on a hyper alert status around other people because you don't want to say or do the wrong thing. It's kind of like the elephant, the baby elephant that's been chained to the stake. He can't pull away from the stake as a baby elephant. And so by the time he grows up, he's been conditioned to believe that he cannot get away from that stake. And so he doesn't even try anymore. And this is what happens to people who have had their solar plexus and sacral chakra energies completely violated by having the force of a narcissist take it over. So they can become prone to depression, anxiety, and pent-up anger. They become brainwashed into believing they are incompetent and that they don't really know anything. They become trained to believe that they will always experience rejection. They are easily sexually manipulated and they become easy prey for sexual assault. And all of this is because they do not know how to say no. Remember, the voice is taken away. And so what happens is they get into this trap of what's called egoism, losing their voice to one who would take control over their words and thoughts. And so what they do, because they don't have their own thoughts anymore, they just, if my, see this in marriages, why are you voting for this candidate? Because my husband's voting for that candidate, right? Perfect example of egoism, where what you're saying is not about who you are authentically, it's a reflection of the thoughts and the priorities of the person who has been controlling you and has taken your voice away. So it's interesting that there seems to be a national epidemic of this going on, because these two chakra centers are a vital part of the foundation of us being able to move into this heart space of and being in sacred, conscious, sacred, equal partnership. When there's narcissism, there is no equal partnership. And so people need to be aware of when they're in a disempowering relationship, whether or not they're in a relationship with a narcissist, so that they can reclaim the power of those chakras and they can remove themselves from those relationships. Because when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, there's no fixing it. In fact, the only solution for being in a relationship with a narcissist is to shut it down and have no contact whatsoever, because you will not be able to go back into that relationship and hold your own power with that person. They're a master of emotional and psychological manipulation. So the only thing you can do when you recognize this is get yourself out of it and then stay out of it, no contact, and then work on the healing process of regaining the power of your sacral chakra and your solar plexus chakra. And because there's a national epidemic of it, and we see it playing out on the world stage, this has got to have a spotlight on it, because humanity as a species is evolving towards conscious equal partnership. And so this has got to be highlighted as a blockage, a blocking point, a gateway that has to be moved past in order for that process to continue. Is there anything anybody would like to share about narcissism, their experience with this, how they were able to regain their power if you were in it, anything at all, and its relationship to the solar plexus and sacral chakras?
I was definitely in a relationship. Well, I mean, narcissist almost seems like a kind word. It's, I would say, more a sociopath, which also connects in with narcissism for sure.
Right.
I was very young. I was 15 when we met, and the relationship lasted till I was 19. Very abusive. So it was like a whole other level. But I feel that ever since then, I have had a very strong radar towards narcissists. And I feel that I've, like, especially with men, my radar is very strong, and it's like as soon as I can sense it, it's like boundary, boundary. And with women, it's a bit more subtle. I've noticed in my 20s and my early 30s, I attracted a lot of strong women who were really self-involved. And because I was more of the nurturing kind of caregiver type, I was just, like the one that they come to for everything and listen, listen, listen. But anytime that I would share about my own experience, it would always just be like, take it back to me, 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 me. And so I had to learn and actually cut out some of those relationships in my life to call in people that were more mutually supportive, to call in people in my life that, you know, there was a reciprocal relationship. And so, yeah, I feel that, you know, especially with the strengthening of my own boundaries, that I'm just, and trusting my own intuition. I feel like that's that connection for me with my sacral chakra is my own intuitive wisdom, you know, my gut instinct. And I know right away, you know, I can feel it. Sometimes I don't listen because I'm like, oh, but, you know, benefit of the doubt. But
Right.
usually those little inklings later, you know, if somebody's like, oh, what do you think about this person? And I get this feeling and I'm like, well, I don't want to be negative. I don't want to say something about them, but this is my feeling. And almost every single time it turns out to be true. And so it's
Wow.
the trusting of that for me is
Right.
huge.
Right.
And and I don't know, it's this interesting thing when I tune into like the quality of narcissism is you know, and even the term itself, the qualities of what being a narcissist is that able to be transmuted in the sense when somebody is able to see how they are in the world and maybe have a reflection. Because I feel that if anybody's doing their own inner work, they're not going to be a narcissist. So if they were able to, you know, be able to see and have that reflected to them, would there be able to be a shift and a change into being into a new way of being, you know?
I hear what you're saying, and this is a valid point about people that are doing their own inner work. What happens very frequently that people that are doing their own inner work have been caught in a narcissist trap, and they
Uh-huh.
didn't understand that that was the trap that they were in, and they didn't understand how to get themselves out of the trap.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, when you're talking, there's a friend of mine who I've been friends with for 20 years, and somebody that was really big in our community and shared a lot of things and but had those qualities. And there was always this part where I was like, oh yeah, that's okay, because there's a sweetness under. I always wanted to see the sweetness. And then a couple of years ago, things started surfacing about all these things with women, and and I could see it. And you know, there was a part of me that was like, but I just wanted to see the good of him, the innocent child underneath this manipulative person who was using their power and their pull in the community and to get people in, you know, and when they were confronted, basically it became this whole thing around, oh, everybody's out to get me. Oh, poor me, the victim, you know, coming into this thing. And I could see that even though they were doing, you know, so-called spiritual work, that they were in this trap,
Yes,
you know? Yeah.
absolutely.
It was quite illuminating actually to just to witness that in that place of like, wow, that so much of it is this the story in the mind and perhaps also, you know, wounds and conditioning of our childhood and where we've come from.
Right. And it's important, even in the quote unquote spiritual world, you know, you get these bigger, larger than life personalities who's the next new guru.
Yeah.
Have to be very careful about giving your power away for them because they're in a position where they could very easily slip into a narcissistic role with you. And you could be the one that is being having your power taken
Totally.
away from them or giving
Yeah.
your power away to them because you think that they know better than you. And they also think they've got the spiritual truth and they know better than you.
And there's so many examples of that, you know, within the spiritual communities, in the yoga world, and the
Mm-hmm.
medicine world, and like all the shamanic world. There's you know, I've heard of so many of those things, and that's kind of why I don't need a guru coming with
Right,
me.
exactly. You
Yeah,
have your own inner guru.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, and this is why if you go back to this idea here, you as a person that is dealing with somebody that's a narcissist, you can be easily sexually manipulated and become easy prey for sexual assault. in the spiritual community. How many times has a quote unquote spiritual guru been called out because of the fact that they are sexually abusing their quote unquote, what are they, disciples or whatever their followers? This happens all the time, and this ties us back into the power centers of the solar plexus and the sacral chakra, and the imbalance of those energies and the power of one over the power of another. So, people that aren't really familiar with this stuff, they can experience it at work with both female bosses and masculine and male bosses. It's why it's important to understand that not only men are narcissists, women can be narcissists too. And so there are all kinds of what you kind of alluded to, these alarms that go off that tell you when you're still in that phase of giving somebody the benefit of the doubt that, hey, what you're tapping into and feeling is true and valid. And this doctor here, Dr. Les Carter, it's not with a T, that's a typo, Les Carter, on his YouTube channel, he has all kinds of really groovy videos, that you can listen to about the 8 top things that a narcissist will say to clue you in that you're dealing with a narcissist. But generally, when you're dealing with somebody that it's my way or it's the highway, you're dealing with a narcissist, and that can be in your home, that can be on the job, it could be anywhere. It could be in your local place of worship, wherever you go, any aspect of your life, you can deal with these people, find these people there. And the fact that it's become a national epidemic is just fascinating to me. And it goes back to having to balance this second chakra and third chakra so that we can come into this fourth chakra fully balanced and fully empowered and start having conscious equal partnerships, and not partnerships or relationships, familial, intimate, professional, whatever they are, that are completely out of balance in terms of power. This is where we hear the term, there's a power struggle going on. And that is the foundation of being in a relationship with a narcissist. It's definitely a power struggle. And it's a struggle for you to maintain your own power and not either give it away or have it sucked away. So this is really, really huge. Is there anything you'd like to contribute to that, Maureen?
No, I've had similar experiences. Talila started at 14, 15, 16, all through high school, off and on, a relationship very much like that. And it's funny how the power of that person becomes it can become seductive, but it can also become fearsome. And I was afraid to do anything that would anger him. And it took a long time to break myself free from that. In fact, I discovered that there was a energetic cord that I had not severed until, I didn't even know it was there until I went to a reunion, and we had it in the old school. And it was just so oppressive for me to be there. I didn't want to be in that school. And so I had a friend who we worked through that by breaking that energetic cord, severing it by use of sound. And it was a very, very powerful experience because that energy did not want to be severed.
Wow.
And so it took two. It took both of us to do it.
Right.
And, yeah, it's a very powerful thing.
Right.
There's just no other way to deal. You just you have to realize what it is. And then once you do, you see, oh, there was no reason for me to feel that way,
Right. Well, you're absolutely right, Maureen, because when you first recognize for the very first time, oh, I'm in a narcissistic relationship, it's like the light comes on. And all of a sudden you realize that all of these things that you thought that you were responsible for and that you were the cause of, the problem of, the source of all of it, it's like, whoa, there isn't anything wrong with me at all. And that's like a huge awakening that happens when you recognize, whoa, this is exactly what's been going on here. I'm I'm in I'm in this power struggle with a narcissist. And the other thing that you said about having fear around saying things, if you're in a relationship with somebody and you're afraid to express your authentic feelings about something to them because you know that a huge negative response will be triggered from them, that's a clue that you're dealing with a narcissist.
Yes, and when you're really young, you're not going to go to someone who could help you, like your mother or your father, or even a friend. You keep it to yourself.
Right.
Very strange.
And it's because through the process, boundaries are eroded and you lose your sense
Oh,
of self. It's
yeah,
exactly what
absolutely.
happens to people that are victims of sexual assault. It's exactly what happens to people that are victims of domestic abuse. Those boundaries are being eroded, and as they're being eroded, more and more of your power is being siphoned off of you. And so what happens? You shut your mouth. That's the response.
Yeah. Isn't it strange? How
Yeah.
far it can go
Yeah.
before you realize what's happening. If
Right.
you do, it. Mm.
And eventually you become a master of this, which is the upswing. I think I mentioned in somewhere along the line that I was recently contacted by a very, very good friend from high school. And I wanted him to be my boyfriend, but my girlfriend, stole him away. But we were good friends. And I was excited to hear from him. And then all of a sudden he started talking about the election. And he's like, let me just tell you right now, I cannot talk about the election because I've lost so many friends because we've had a difference in opinion over candidates. I said, okay, I can honor that. Fast forward a couple of weeks. He's like, I can't believe that you voted for so-and-so. I have lost all respect for you. And when he said that, I said, bingo, he's a narcissist. That's why he keeps losing friends over this topic, because it's his way or the highway, and he cannot have a civil discussion. He cannot talk to somebody who has a difference of opinion. That's a clue that he's a narcissist. And if I had not had the experience that I'd had, that just that simple phrase, I've lost all respect for you because you believe that, was enough to let me know.
Mm.
And I hadn't seen this person, in 40 years.
Mm.
So this is a huge, huge topic of understanding, of awareness heightening, and of healing when we're talking about the sacral chakra and the solar plexus chakra. Okay, moving on. when I created the chart for this gate activation, two interesting formations, I will say, showed up. I'm going to go over them now, and then you'll recognize them when I show you the chart. First of all, let me just preface this by saying, when I saw these images on the chart, remember, like in our past class on the sacred masculine and sacred feminine, when I saw the
She's gone, isn't she?
Yeah, I was like, did something happen on my computer?
Oh. I'll text. Maybe she doesn't.
hello.
Okay,
Oh, hello. Are you back? I thought I heard her voice.
I did too.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hear you,
I
but
can't see you.
your image is frozen.
Oh, it's just us now.
Hello.
I think I'm just going to take this opportunity to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan. Yeah. Me too. Oh, you're back. Okay.
Okay, I sent you sent you all a okay, thanks for sticking with me. I don't know why my internet shut down, but it did, but we're back. So as I was saying, I really did some research to see if I could find the appropriate name for these aspects that I was seeing in the chart, and I didn't find them. Doesn't mean they're not there, just I didn't find them. So if you know them, or if anybody watching this knows the appropriate term, you can share it with me. But in the meantime, I made up my own terms based on what they look like to me. So there's an aspect that we're going to see that to me looks like a teepee. And in this aspect, it includes two oppositions. Oh, excuse me. It includes an opposition and two trines and a sextile. And what I noticed that with the combination of these aspects, the opposition, the two trines and a sextile, that they were either happening in either earth water elements or air fire elements. So I decided to call it earth water teepee and an air fire teepee. And what we know about a teepee is this, that it is a sacred container for the presence of the sacred feminine, if it's an earth water teepee, or the sacred masculine, if it's an air fire teepee. We also know that it is the manifestation of a high frequency creation that is becoming a reality. And that the newly manifested reality is either nurturing, safe, grounding, and successful, if it's an earth water teepee, or it's harmonious, uplifting, inspired, and passionate, if it's an air fire teepee. And here's some background information on the word teepee, which originates from the Lakota language. And it's interesting that, of course, that they held the structure to be very, very sacred. And so the floor space represented earth, while the soaring walls represented the sky. So we've got a kind of a bridge here between heaven and earth with that teepee. And they even often built a small altar near the center of the teepee for prayer purposes. So this is one of the aspects that I saw. And if it actually has a real name other than teepee, you're welcome to share that with me. The other aspect that I saw looked like an eagle to me. Again, I tried to find an actual real aspect name, and I didn't. So if anybody knows it, you're welcome to share it with me. But this particular aspect that I discovered includes two oppositions, and their polarities are at 60 degrees from each other, and they have two masculine or feminine trines. So again, I'm calling this Father Eagle if it's in the air fire elements, and Mother Eagle if it's in the earth water elements. And this is receiving a high frequency sacred vision. And the sacred vision is conceptual, sensitive, ambitious, and masterful if it's the Mother Eagle aspect. And it's profound, liberating, lofty, and noble if it's the Father Eagle aspect. And it's supported by a double dose of shamanic medicine. So here is some information about the shamanic medicine of eagles. And it says here that the eagle conveys the powers and messages of the spirit. It is man's connection to the divine because it flies higher than any other bird. So there's a lot of good shamanic medicine information here. Eagle people are seen as visionaries, those who are seekers and who are willing to push the limits of self-discovery and personal freedom. So when we get to the chart, you will see the TP aspect and the eagle aspect that I discovered there. All right, so here is the first one. We have an earth water TP that includes the gate activation, the opposition here on the path of intensity with the moon, Venus, and Juno opposite Sedna. We've talked about that before. In this opposition, Juno is trine Yeshua, the embodiment of Christ consciousness. And Sedna, on the other end of that polarity, is trined Pluto, Jupiter, Saturnia, Pallas Athena. And then the Yeshua here is also sextile to this Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pallas Athena. So let's look to see what that looks like. Here it is. Here's the opposition. Here's the trine from Sedna to Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pallas Athena. Here's the trine from the gate activation to Yeshua. So you see they cross each other. And then Yeshua and Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn, Pallas Athena are at a sextile to each other. So to me, that looked like a TP. That's why I called it that. And this one, because we're dealing here with earth and water energies. Water energies here in Pisces, earth energies in Capricorn, earth energies in Taurus, water energies in Scorpio. So that's why I called it the earth water TP. Now, again, it may have another name, but that's what I'm calling it. Then we have a grand cross. And remember what grand crosses are. They're unlimited possibilities for creation and opportunities for breakthroughs in consciousness. Also, it's an infinite timelines to choose from for manifestation. And the two paths that are being activated in this grand cross are the path of the helpmate and the path of the questmate. So let's look at those here. Here we go. Here is the path of the helpmate. This is the Virgo Pisces path here. Orcus and Vesta in Virgo, opposite Neptune in Pisces. And then we've got the path of the questmate. We've got the North Node here in Gemini, opposite Mercury and the Sun. So there's our grand cross. Then we have what I'm calling Father Eagle. Path of conscious equal partnership is involved in this with the Mars Aries opposite Magdalene. Here we have these 3 trines involved. Mars and Eris is trine Mercury and Sun. Eris is trine the total solar eclipse point. And then the Magdalene on this end is trine the North Node. So let's take a look at that. So here is the opposition. Again, we've got Mars and Eris up here, opposite the Magdalene down there. And then we've got Mars and Eris in Aries trining over here to the Sun. And we know that right there is also where the solar eclipse is happening today. So it's activating this eagle. And then we've got the North Node here in Gemini, trining the Magdalene. But we've also got, so because of where the trines are, they're crossing over each other. So you see, you have this kind of effect here. It's not the butterfly aspect. It's a little more pointed towards here because you've got a sextile up here and down here you've got a square. So this is more open, this is more closed. So, but you see, you clearly got 2, what I call wings on either side. And because they are in the air fire signs, right? Gemini, Libra, Sagittarius, and Aries, that's the Father Eagle. So what did we say about Father Eagle? We said that the vision, it's a sacred vision that's being received, and that the vision is going to be profound, liberating, lofty, and noble. And then we've got that total solar eclipse. And what's really interesting about the total solar eclipse is that it's close enough to the galactic center in Ischion to be conjunct to it. And it's also semi-sextile, the 6th gate activation. And so what's happening here through this is that we are being re-informed and re-nourished through the Earth Water TP, the Grand Cross, and the Father Eagle. These are huge, huge, huge aspects going on here. This is that solar eclipse point happening today, being in sextile to the gate activation there. So you can see it's activating Father Eagle, it's activating the Grand Cross. So what I've done for this class, which is different for the last classes, is I have not put in the slides with all of the keywords for all of these elements. We've been going over that for 5 classes now. So what I'm going to do, and of course we've been going over them in your personal sessions as well. What I'm going to do for the 2 of you is I'm going to pull out all of those keywords that we've been using on these slides, and I'm going to make a compendium, and I'm going to publish that compendium on our resource page so that you can download it and you can use it as you're working with your own chart. Okay. What I did do is I did include the shamanic medicine, and the shamanic medicine here, you'll see that it's in blue. It goes back to this TP here. And why did I pick this TP as the shamanic medicine source? Because Chiron is involved right here. Chiron is involved. So what are all of the signs that are being activated by this TP? We've got Taurus, we've got Capricorn, Scorpio, and Pisces. With Taurus, we're doing that full embodiment and receiving the pleasure of life. With Capricorn, the medicine is about responsibility for your contribution. Scorpio, the medicine has to do with fearlessness and the ability to be deeply transformed. And Pisces has to do with merging with the divine self without losing your individuality. Now, in the past, I also had all of the questions down here related to the medicine that had to do with the demons that you may be experiencing at this sacral chakra. The big one here that I'm going to just point out to you, but I'm really trying to kind of wean you over into considering with these questions here related to the shamanic medicine, what some of the sacral demons is, knowing what the sacral chakra is about from the previous slide on the sacral chakra, what some of those demons may be. And we see here with the Scorpio energy, it comes back to power. So one of the questions you might ask yourself is there anywhere in my life where I am experiencing narcissism from another, or am I being narcissistic in any area of my life? That could be one of the questions, a demon that may be showing up for you. But there's others here that you can kind of feel into and think about what are some of the questions that I would ask myself about this sacral chakra. And remember that it's going to be all about pleasure, right? Running that Shakti energy. So there's that Taurus Scorpio path of intensity that's highly integrated into that sacral chakra activation. Have to do with your responsibility for your contribution. As an elder, are you an authoritarian figure, or are you really an elder that can compassionately share your wisdom without having to use your force in a wounding way? In Pisces, how is it that your creative center here at the sacral chakra is able to receive from cosmic consciousness? So again, another step in trying to wean you away from providing you what those demons may be, to you exploring this shamanic medicine and what some of the questions might be for you. So we have shamanic medicine from the earth water TP. We also have shamanic medicine from the Grand Cross. These are the signs that are being activated in the Grand Cross: Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, and Pisces. Look at what's coming up here again. Pisces, this merging with the divine self without losing your individuality, surrendering to cosmic consciousness. This is a huge piece here that's showing up in this aspect, the earth water TP, and in the Grand Cross. So what this tells us is, there might be a huge piece here that I need to look for in terms of what demons may be coming up. And then the shamanic medicine of the Father Eagle: Aries, Libra, Gemini, and Sagittarius. Well, look here, Sagittarius and Gemini, none there. Okay, so Gemini, Sagittarius, Pisces. These are big places that you can look to for some of the sacral demons that may be coming up, having to do with trusting your intuition and your guidance from your higher self, understanding what your truth is, what has spiritual meaning to you, what your spiritual purpose is. So see about what questions you can ask yourself related to the sacral chakra, in terms of, remember the sacral chakra, if there's any imbalance there, it can show up as inflexibility, right? So in any of these areas, is there any inflexibility showing up for you in those areas that could be sacral demons for you? Any question about any of that? Okay, so you see, I'm trying to wean you into using more of your own intuition, into feeling into these energies, into looking at these aspects looking at your solar return chart, seeing where these aspects are overlaying your solar return chart, seeing where the solar eclipse is activating, where will the full moon be activating. Remember, I said for me, the full moon is activating my natal orcus, my sacred vow. What is close to this full moon, almost 9 degrees of Cancer in your solar return chart that's going to be activated? Really trying to get you to start feeling into those energies and creating these contemplative questions of inquiry for yourself. Anything about that anybody has any questions about?
So the 9 degrees Cancer that you were just speaking of, that's for the next full moon.
Yes, on
Okay.
December 29th.
Right. Well, that's definitely that was because my Venus is at 8 degrees in my natal chart, and my Sun and Moon are at 6 degrees. So
Exactly.
the Cancer full moon is a good one for me.
Yes, it's going to be huge for you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. Yep. Now for you, Maureen, we know that that falls in your 9th house. We know that the Divine Mother plays the role of a guru for you. So it'll be interesting to find out what kind of new information that you'll be learning from her at that time. Can you guys see these two aspects that I've dubbed the TP and the eagle? Or can you clearly see those?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just want to make sure. All right. Okay. Now, let's remember the cosmic dance. Let's remember, we started the year, January 12th, with that Saturn conjunct Pluto at 22, almost 23 degrees of Capricorn. Let's remember, we had those 3 Jupiter-Pluto conjunctions, and that the last one last month activated that same place in the sky where Saturn and Pluto were conjunct. And now we've got this winter solstice coming up with Saturnia being conjunct Jupiter. The exact conjunction is 0 degrees Aquarius, 29 minutes, 9 seconds. I mentioned before that it's known as the Star of Bethlehem. Whoops. And it'll be the first Jupiter-Saturn conjunction since the year 2000, and the closest Jupiter-Saturn conjunction since 1623, which was only 14 years after Galileo made his first telescope. So, any questions at all about that? Take a lot of notes and stuff on that day, because by the time we have your private sessions in January and your group sessions, you know, you may have a lot that you want to share in terms of how this conjunction activated your solar return chart.
Mm.
For Maureen and I, it's going to be pretty spectacular, because we get a whole new solar return chart on January 8th and January 9th, right before the next gate activation on the 11th.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this is still very much a part of the evolutionary path of this year for us up until our birthdays on January 8th and 9th.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Really important for us to look at that. This, I think, just from an intuitive point of view for us, Maureen, I think is really going to be like a jumping off place for us into our next evolutionary path.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And you can see back here, I did it as a watermark, the Star of Bethlehem. I took a picture of Jupiter and Saturn in the sky recently. It's pretty bright. You can go out and see it.
Yeah, if you don't have clouds, we've been having such clouds, and fog, and I've not been able to see any of the sky. I have to use my
Yeah.
night app, and night sky app. That helps. I can at least see it there, but,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
Me too. It's been
Yeah.
very, very cloudy and rainy at night here lately, and there was the big meteor shower, and then, just all
Yeah.
the things. That's okay. There's still many days until the conjunction that we'll be
Yeah.
able to see it. I'm holding
Absolutely.
that vision.
And locally here, some girlfriends and I are getting together and we're doing a fire ceremony on the solstice to recognize this conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Are you having a ceremony too, Leela?
On the
The
solstice,
solstice?
I'm actually part of the ecstatic dance that I do. We do it Monday nights anyways, and I'm leading that one, so I'm gonna do a special solstice dance on that
Oh,
day.
that's
Yeah.
just wonderful. I'm just going
Yeah.
to be alone. I don't know anybody that feels or, believes as I do and honors the wheel of the year in that way. Of course, I can't go anywhere anyway because we're locked down here. But it would be nice to be able to celebrate with people who believed like I do and had similar uh, values.
Yeah. Well, let's hold the intention that you will, between now and then, connect with somebody that would like to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I will. We'll do that. Yes.
Yeah. So that's a lot for this gate. It's, a huge activation. So here are the Vision Quest opportunities that you can engage in if you choose for our group session. Pick one of the aspects that resonates with you and come up with some themes for it based on the astrological keywords we have been working with. So that would be an exciting thing for you to do. Since I haven't given that to you, you can kind of go into your toolbox and pull some of that out from your slides and see what you could come up with. And pick one of the aspects that resonates with you and describe how it is being reinformed and or renourished by the total solar eclipse. So that could be interesting as well.
Okay, good.
So our next support group will be on the 2nd. I hope you both can be there. And then are there any final questions and answers?
What time is the support group?
2 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, Eastern.
11.
So 11 a.m. Pacific.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So when you're digging into that TP aspect and the eagle aspect, go back to those slides and read all of the supportive information that I put in there around the symbolism of a TP and the shamanic medicine of an eagle, and see if you can tap into that to give you some more insight into what's coming up for you on your solar return chart around those.
Okay.
Great.
Yes.
So let's make a pact that we're just going to let all of this work on us through the new year. And then after the group session, we can schedule private sessions. We'll have from from the 2nd to about the 10th. That gives us about 8 days to try to get the private sessions in. But meanwhile, then we can just really kind of just let this month that's got so much going on
Mm.
really kind of have its way with us in a deeply alchemical way.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Remember, it's going to be intense, right? That gate activation is on the path of intensity. It's going to be intense. So if you have any requirement for clarification or support, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. That won't be breaking the pact. Okay.
Thank you.
Right. I will.
All right, you gorgeous Gaias. Let's revel. Let's revel in all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Thank you very much.
All right.
Both of you have a wonderful solstice.
Yes, you
Merry
too.
Christmas and
Thank you.
Happy New Year and Happy Solstice.
Thank you. Yes. You too.
And it was Happy Hanukkah this past Friday, so
It
that too.
was. Yeah.
All of it. Happy
All
all
of it.
Yeah.
Happy Kwanzaa.
Yeah.
I can't keep track of them all,
Uh-huh.
but many, many, many solstice blessings.
Thank
Thank you.
you. And to
Thank
you
very
too.
much. Mm.
All right, lovelies. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.